I'm the first deputy here, working directly with Deputy Borough President Diana Reyna, Borough President Eric Adams. They're both not here this morning. They're out in the field. So we're just going to have this wonderful Borough Service Cabinet meeting. I just want to make a few introductions first. We have some Borough Hall staff in the room. Melinda Muniz is by the door. Okay. Joe Frizzell is here manning the camera. We have incoming counsel Andrew Gennardis on the left. And we have outgoing counsel Lauren Jacobson over here to my left immediately. This is her last Borough Service Cabinet meeting. So we wish her all the best. That's better. As I'm sure you see, Joe is going to be recording this meeting for cataloging purposes, and then starting in March, as a result of a new council law, all meetings will be recorded for live webcast and future webcasting due to the new legislation. So without further ado, Lauren's going to do some roll.
Okay. Hello. So I'm going to start with the community boards. Board number 1, Gerald Esposito. Board number 2, Robert Paris. Board number 3, Henry Butler. Board number 4, Nadine Whitted. Board number 5, Walter Campbell. Board number 6, Craig Hammerman. I see Leroy Branch. Okay. Board number 7, Jeremy Laffer. Board number 8, Michelle George. Board number 9, Pearl Miles Lee. Board number 10, Josephine Beckman. Present. Board number 11, Marnie Elias Pavia. Board number 12, is someone here for Wolf Stenzer? Okay. Board number 13, Chuck Reichenthal. Here. Board number 14, Sean Campbell. Here. Board number 15, Carl Berg.
Teresa Scavo for Pearl Berg.
Great, thank you, Teresa. Board number 16, Viola Green Walker.
Here.
Board number 17, Sharif Frazier. Board number 18, Dorothy Toronto. Okay, moving on to the agencies. You all now have nameplates, so I hope you enjoy them. Administration for Children's Services. Aging. Brooklyn Public Library.
Here.
Buildings.
Here.
City Planning. Citywide Administrative Services. Commission on Human Rights. Con Edison. Consumer Affairs.
Here.
Corrections. Design and Construction. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Environmental Protection. Finance.
Here.
Fire. Health and Mental Hygiene. Homeless Services. Housing Preservation and Development. Human Resources Administration. Information Technology and Telecommunications. National Grid. New York City Transit.
Present.
Mayor's Community Assistance Unit. Parks and Recreation.
Present.
Police, Brooklyn North.
Brooklyn North, yes.
Brooklyn South. Probation.
Here.
Sanitation, Brooklyn North. Brooklyn South. Thank you. Small Business Services.
Here.
Transportation.
Here.
Youth and Community Development. U.S. Postal Service.
Here.
311. Office of State Comptroller. And we also had the representative from Councilmember Mark Traeger's office, Ethan Lustig. Thank you for attending.
So again, thanks all for coming. The Borough President and Deputy Borough President are currently at a breakfast with our mayor and some clergy in Brooklyn. Just making that announcement. So Just some brief announcement about what's happening this week here at Borough Hall is our annual Sweethearts event. Not sure if you guys will be attending, but you're all more than welcome to do so. Yeah. So at this point, I'd like to open it up to the district managers that are present to make any upcoming announcements that they may have for us.
We'll put a link on our website, or there is a link on our website. I'll send it out to my colleagues, and I invite the rest of you to please visit the Community Board 14 website, cb14brooklyn.com, to take a look at our CBO map. Also, our annual youth conference has been scheduled for May 7th, and I'll make subsequent announcements about that as we approach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, and again, please check our websites for any additional information at brooklyn-usa.org. Yes. Okay, so thank you all. We're going to move on to our agenda. Our first agenda item addresses notification issues, our district manager document. Okay, I just got word that you want to talk?
Yeah.
Please.
All right. Hi, everyone. Okay, so on last Tuesday, the Deputy Borough President, the Borough President, and myself had a sit-down conversation with the district managers, and which produced, they had produced this document to us, which I believe everybody in this room should have received, which basically is dictating the course of future Borough Service Cabinet meetings as well as today. And it was a little bit short notice for some of these agencies to be here today to be able to have the specific representatives. So I just wanted to, I put the items that we addressed as the top items, one of them being notification, on the list. And I just wanted to address the fact that DDC and DEP were two of them. And I did speak with, and both DDC and DEP could not have the appropriate representatives here today. However, they did send emails addressing both of the notification issues, but not being their representatives, I don't want to speak on their behalf. So what we're going to do is we're going to table those two specific issues until the March meeting, and we'll be able to address them further then. But I just wanted to reassure all district managers that DDC and DEP both have responded. They are both aware that the district managers have concerns and will revisit this issue in March, but it's not been addressed yet. Okay? So I think that, is there anybody that wants to say anything addressing those issues or to elaborate on the issues that are addressed in the document? Sean?
Yeah, I just want to, I mean, they're cabinet members, so I just want to take issue with you saying it was short notice, because if they knew this meeting was coming up, so the representative should be here. So it wasn't a lack of notification.
That is duly noted. Are there any other comments from anybody, any other members? Okay.
Okay, we'll move on to our second agenda item, which addresses Charter Section 68. DOT will be providing information and utilities to be present to explain the notification processes.
Okay. Well, did you receive the agenda? Okay. Okay. Well, did you receive the... Is someone here from New York City Transit? Okay. Would you like to address your issues, and I'll speak to somebody from Department of Transportation? Okay. Thank you. We're going to move on to agenda item 3, and we'll be back. We'll respond to agenda item 2 in a moment. Thank you. Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to agenda item 3, and we'll be back. We'll respond to agenda item 2 in a moment. Thank you.
Okay, good. Is this on? Okay. Good morning, everyone. As most of you know, my name is Andy Inglesby. I'm with New York City Transit. I'm Assistant Director for Government and Community Relations. And I'm here with my colleague today, Sheila Hudson, who will introduce herself.
Excuse me. Good morning. I'm Sheila Hudson, the Assistant Chief Officer, New York City Transit Station Department.
Okay, so we were asked to come today to talk about maintenance of subway stations. So we don't really have any major presentation, but I just want to give everybody a background, and then we'll be more than happy to take any questions that you guys might have. So as most district managers know throughout the course of communication with myself or my colleague Melissa Farley, New York City Transit has 468 subway stations throughout the city, throughout the subway system. All 468 subway stations are maintained on a daily basis by our station cleaners. And every subway station receives cleaning 3 times per day. We work in 8-hour tours, so every subway station is cleaned and maintained on a daily basis 3 times a day. Also, all 468 of our subway stations receive visits by station supervisors at least every 72 hours. That's every 3 days. When there is any defect that is noticed by the station cleaners or the station supervisors, it's reported to our station maintenance crew. And if it's a major safety issue, it is addressed immediately. If it's what we determine to be a minor defect, it is taken care of within 30 days. We, as a general policy practice, are responsible for 3 feet within every station entrance or egress within the system. That is, whether it's an elevated station or whether it's an entrance to one of the typical underground stations within the subway. And that, by maintenance, I mean typical debris removal or snow removal or anything else that needs to be taken care of. But we as a rule, maintain within 3 feet of every subway entrance. And that's pretty much it. Sheila, do you want to add anything to that? I mean, those are our general policies. And if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to take them.
Feet in a diameter, 3 feet out? How are you getting this 3 feet?
Well, I mean, I don't think we don't, our station maintenance people don't come out there with rulers. I mean, it's a general rule. I mean, our cleaners know what a general 3-foot radius is from our subway.
So in a large subway entrance, typically the sidewalk would be your 3 feet, maybe a little larger in some locations. So are you maintaining from that door curbside? In other words, the garbage that's curbside, you just walk
I think there
away.
are generally some exceptions. There are some stations that, just by the layout of the station, we do sometimes a little bit more, depending on the layout. There are also some MOUs that we have that we need to address throughout the subway system. There's just certain areas where we've made an MOU with other city agencies where we have to maintain that as well. But I mean, as a general purpose, since there's 468 subway stations in the system, I mean, it's hard to say, well, at the Avenue H station we do this, at 34th Street we do this. I mean, it's all, it's 3 feet here and 3 feet there is not, I mean, we don't have a map that says this is what we do. I mean, it's
Okay, take Avenue M, B and Q line, the Q. Avenue M is a huge front to the station. So do you just take I don't know, you just take the snow and clean your 3 feet and leave the rest to the sidewalk?
Well, I think it's a general rule, we're not going to, we generally don't clean up to the curb.
Rule of thumb is that we normally go 3 feet around every station entrance. However, there are some stations where we do go further.
And that's trash plus snow.
Right.
That's correct.
Right.
Yes, sir. Community Board 3.
I have to comment on the statement you made that every station is cleaned 3 times a day. Now, I mean, Andy, you know, I don't know if anyone else knows, you know, I'm a former transit employee who worked down in the train. And I know for a fact every station is not cleaned 3 times a day, because when there's MTA employees do a pick every 6 months, where we pick what jobs we're going to work for that 6-month period. And you both know that there are certain jobs that don't get picked on. It may be the midnight shift for, say, the 168th Street station. They won't have a cleaner to cover that section. And I know for a fact that there are periods of time where it goes a whole pick where you won't have anyone covering that station for whether it's the AM or PM or midnight tour. And there have been situations, I should do safety walks, where it was impossible to get someone to cover that tour. So what is it that can be done? Because there's so much bureaucracy within the MTA. When there's a pick, no one picks that specific job to make sure those stations are clean on a daily basis. What's the procedure that's in the system right now when a pick job is not picked for that whole pick, that y'all make sure that station is covered?
I'll answer that. I'm not certain if everybody knows specific lingo, since you're an ex-transit employee or former transit employee.
I apologize.
We do have what we call extra pools. We do have pools of personnel who are assigned to locations due to availability issues. We make every effort in order to have every station covered on every tour. However, we do have issues periodically where personnel are not assigned, and that is backfilled by extra personnel.
What is the recourse that I guess district managers or the public will take when, for example, you do have extra crews? I know about the extra list, but they don't work that particular station every day. That extra list person will work a different station each day.
That's correct. They can go throughout the system, and in any event that we do not have a person, an extra person, to assign to a location, we have personnel that we will pull from other locations and bring into a particular station in order to clean up garbage, remove trash, and then move forward.
Which I know that's supposed to be the process, but that's not happening on a consistent basis. And I think we all can testify to the fact we've gone to stations that have not been cleaned, not 1, 2, or 3 days. Stations have gone not clean. Whether there's a lack of communication amongst the higher-ups about the station not being covered, but I understand the procedure that's supposed to be in place, but I'm just saying it's not happening on a consistent basis.
Well, Henry, I think there's also a difference between routine cleaning, what we're talking about, like trash pickup, and more intensive maintenance, like
no, I'm talking about routine
tile cleaning or...
I'm talking about routine cleaning. That's what I'm talking about, routine cleaning.
We, as I said, and I'll say it again, we as a general, we seek to have every station cleaned within a 24-hour period 3 times a day. And that, if we don't have the scheduled manpower, then stations addresses that on a daily basis.
Yes, please.
Sean, before you, I just want to also say, I think everyone also understands that, like, you know, obviously if there's an issue, if there's a specific issue at a station within their district, obviously you can call me and we'll try to work out a specific, you know, if there's a specific issue that day. I mean, there's something that, you know, routinely what I'll do is I'll get the information from you, I'll contact the stations department, and if there's something that they can do immediately, they'll do. Also, I failed to mention graffiti. Graffiti is handled very, very seriously within the transit department, especially if it's hate graffiti. Anytime any hate-related graffiti is present in the system, please call me, as you guys have been doing, and we'll get that removed as soon as possible. I mean, there's no timetable for that, but as soon as we get that word, immediately we'll go out there and remove the offensive symbol.
Timetable or generally
Non-hate
graffiti?
Non-hate graffiti, we is there a time?
For graffiti that's on non-painted surfaces, immediately upon discovery, and for graffiti that appears on painted surfaces, we have a 72-hour cycle.
And thank you, Andy. You always are responsive when we've brought things to your attention, so I can attest that it's a quick response and we appreciate it. I just want to pick up where Teresa Scavo left off on the 3-foot rule. I want a better understanding of whose rule that is. Is that Transit's rule saying this is what we will do, or is it the city's rule saying this is what's expected of you? Where does it come from? Because it's a bad rule and it needs to be addressed, and I just want to address it properly.
Well, it's not, as everyone knows, we're not a city agency, so we're not under the administrative code, but we do, as a general policy of trying to be a good neighbor, we generally, the 3-foot rule has been established for quite a long time internally. I don't know the exact date, but it's been established internally, and that's part of trying to be a good neighbor, but also making sure that our customers have safe access to our subway system. Quite frankly, maintaining 468 subway stations, we don't really have the staff power to do any more, maintain property that is not ours.
Problem that may be shared by others related to the system, in that the areas beneath the tracks are often filled with dirt, trash, dump garbage, etc. And Corsanet does not do that. They won't go into your property. And it becomes a big problem because it means more rats, vermin, dirt, health problems, etc. And it doesn't look good when you're building up a community. So I think that's something that has to be discussed, and we have to work on a method so that it can look better and it can be cleaned up, rather than have more and more people see that there's garbage in there, so hey, why not? And they'll throw their own. So that's an issue that I really think we should take up. The other fast matter is that I'd like to have Rhonda or somebody come down. We're gonna, on Surf Avenue, another new restaurant is coming in, but the back is directly on your property. They cannot, so far as I can see, take their trash out from the front, so their trash is gonna be on your property, and we have to figure out how to deal with that so that the police who use that area, transit police, can do their work, et cetera, without bollocksing up and neating more garbage underneath the tracks.
Is there a time frame or is there a set schedule for cleaning up the tracks? That's obviously not done 3 times a day. How often is that done?
And they're scheduled, that's more intensive because we have to get general orders for that. A general order is basically an order for the track department to not run service. So that's more schedule intensive because we basically have to stop service for our customers. So we generally try to clean the tracks when possible, whenever we have a fast track on the system, or when there's scheduled maintenance work or scheduled capital construction work. So that's what we usually do when
potentially that could be years between on certain lines.
That task is actually done by MOW track, and it's done on a cycle as to when they come in and clean up.
But the cycle is, we try to schedule the cycle when there's active GOs along the road. Otherwise, we'd have to do work under flagging, etc. So if there's no, if the cycle falls when there's no capital work, which would just close down the track anyway, we would do that work under flagging or other situations.
I have two other questions, both specific. One you called me about 2 or 3 weeks ago regarding, I believe it was the Prospect Park Station, because you were looking to have Parks Department now shovel the path to the station, if I'm correct.
Oh, this is at the Fort Hamilton?
Yes, Fort Hamilton.
Right, right. At the Fort Hamilton Parkway station on the the FG station, there is an entrance that abuts a park.
Right.
And is anyone here from Parks? Yeah. So, are you familiar with this?
Yeah.
No, it's the Fort Hamilton Parkway. Right. So there's a drain there, right? There's a drain that constantly doesn't drain. So it's the parks. It's not. It's far away from our station entrance. So Sheila, I don't know if you've addressed. I think she's been involved in this issue as well. The Fort Hamilton Parkway FG station. Generally, we ask Parks Department to take a look at that.
But this isn't about MTA, it's not about parks, it's several agencies that I'm sure all of us have this problem with. It's sanitation, it's parks, it's transportation, it's MTA, not maintaining the sidewalk, the sidewalks that they're supposed to, whether it's a public sidewalk, whether it's a bridge, whether it's a public stairway. And again, it's not necessarily just MTA. We're having problems with an agency saying, oh, that's the other agency's problem. And it happens one year, we correct it, new personnel comes in, and it happens all over again. So I'm pleased that you called me, but I'm also a little concerned that you don't have that direct line to Parks Department to say, hey, clean up your area. And that would go the same with any of these other agencies. I'm getting calls from them to say, hey, you call this other agency. The other specifics that I had was about the 45th Street station on the borough-wide. One of the staircases was closed down for repair at the end of January. No work has taken place there, judging by all the ice and snow on the stairs. So I doubt it's going to be repaired by March 1st, as it's supposed to be. However, we're directing people to another stairway that is also crumbling. And that has had snow and ice and now salt, so now the cement there is turning into dust. And I saw some woman almost take a tunnel down it this morning, somebody grabbed her. And we're actually directing people to that staircase, which I think is actually in worse shape than the one that was closed down. Okay. So I wanted to, and I'll see you in 2 days for my district service cabinet. So this is a 2-day warning. We want to get answers, what the repair, how long that repair is going to take, whether or not the other side is going to be done. And a couple of years ago, you may remember I had brought up the idea of these stairwells that are uncovered that get direct rain and snow. If something as simple as a canopy can be put up above them, it won't impact wind bringing snow in, but it won't be directly rained on, it won't be directly snowed on. Is that possible?
Well, I think that's something that will have to be addressed by our capital department. I mean, but it's certainly a request that we can make. I mean, if you could give us a list of...
We have numerous stations
right.
like that get directly snowed on.
Okay.
The stairwell, so I'll be happy to give you a list.
Right. And we'll find that we'll get an answer to you about the 45th Street station. It wasn't scheduled work. I can tell you right, it wasn't scheduled work. It must have been closed down.
No, it certainly was done on an emergency basis, but no work is taking place there. And I think we're directing people to a stairwell that's at least just as dangerous, if not more dangerous.
Andy, thank you for the information about the subway stations. This time of year, one of the questions that I get called into the office most frequently is the condition of bus stops and bus shelters. Could you comment on the maintenance of those?
Sure. Bus stops and bus shelters are under the responsibility of Department of Transportation and Department of Sanitation. I want to commend sanitation for cleaning. I know that they make a priority of trying to clean the bus stops as quickly as possible, especially in this harsh weather we've been having. So on behalf of our Department of Buses, I appreciate getting them cleared as soon as possible. When a bus operator deems a bus stop not safe enough to stop at the regular bus stop location, he or she will stop at the closest location possible that is deemed safe for our customers to get on and alight the buses. But I do appreciate sanitation for doing a great job, especially this winter, for getting the bus stops cleared as quickly as possible. But as far as shelters are concerned, I know DOT has a contract with Samosa, so I don't know, Rhonda, if you want to comment on that.
Series of days, both bus stops, bus shelters, and I'm very proud of the job that my sanitation superintendent has done this winter. But the corner sidewalk ramps, it seems like the solution is you take a handful of salt, you throw it in the middle of the pad, and you move on to the next one. I realize it's a big job, but that's not the same as cleaning the sidewalk ramp. So, clearly if someone is calling 311 on Wednesday and then Thursday and then Friday and then calling me the following week, bus stops and bus shelters are not being cleaned, at least in my district.
Is the private contractor responsible for their snow within the shelter?
Andy just said that the snow removal, DOT
No, I'm asking, is the private contractor? No, I'm
contract?
asking, is the private contractor within, there's snow within the shelter? Private contractor?
I believe that it's sanitation. The shelter's open.
No, sanitation is only responsible. They told me that creating for the bus stop, people
Yes,
get on and off the bus, they create a little path by the door entrance.
So to shovel out the shelter,
Yeah, who's responsible for shoveling out the shelter? That's my
we'll
question.
have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
So, the protocol, whether it's graffiti, garbage, broken sidewalk, snow, what is the protocol?
Under the trestle, under the elevated trestles is deemed to be a city sidewalk, and that's not our property. So you would have to take it up with the city agency that is responsible, whether it be DOT, sanitation, parks, depending on where it's located. So
For example, Avenue-wide, that abuts your MTA building,
the substation.
substation.
So the substation, we would maintain within 3 feet around our building.
So that
As a general rule, look, as I said, I think this 3 foot rule needs to be caveated by saying that, every area is different. If we're talking about a substation, a station house, if we're talking about a station entrance or egress, there are, as I said, we don't take a ruler and say, well, there's 3 feet that we have to stop. It's different for, and as I said, if you guys call me up, we can see what we can do. So, it's not a black and white issue.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Meeteing with it from Community Board 4. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Nadine.
I just got a recent complaint query with respect to the frequency, and I'm not talking about during the snowstorm. I'm talking about prior to the snow, of the B-52 bus. That's a bus that people in my district travel downtown on, and I'm told that that bus has been extremely slow during morning rush hours specifically, where someone is consistently late for work, one of my board members' wife. I need to know if you know of any types of changes on that route, and if so, share them.
So these have been very recent lateness?
Yes. Yes.
All right, so I don't think I don't believe there have been any scheduled changes, especially in this, what time of the day is this taking place?
Morning rush.
Sorry, this is off topic. I'm sorry, this is off topic. But I'm not trying to make excuses for our buses, but obviously, during this harsh winter weather,
She's not talking about during that time. She said even prior to the snow. It's been consistently.
Okay. I'll certainly look into that from Brooklyn Road Operations and find out. And this is during the morning rush.
Nadine, what route was that again?
B52.
B52.
Yeah. I'll look to see if there's been any noticeable traffic delays or any kind of chronic patterns, and if there is, then there's something we'll have to look at.
Second question, I'll speak with you later with respect to Stewart Street, if there has been any movement with that.
Sure.
Yes, please.
Morning, Craig Hammerman, Community Board 6. Andy, like Sean, I want to echo her appreciation for your responsiveness anytime we call you. Just want to make sure that that's out there on the record. We had a problem years ago with a wall on Smith Street that was constantly subject to graffiti. And to their credit, Transit's response was to host an art contest with a local school, and actually hired muralists to come in and paint these wonderful children's pictures, actual reproductions of the children's pictures by professional muralists along this wall on Smith Street. It's gotten a bit dated. I think Eileen Dugan was actually the judge, and she's since passed away. It's probably about 15 years old at this point, and people have been tagging it lately. You know, it's very subtle, but you can tell that, you know, it's definitely not fresh. I was hoping that we could talk to you about doing something to maintain that area better. Perhaps some alternative to the mural at this point might be in order. And since it's adjacent to the Culver Viaduct, maybe that's something that we can do while we still have when we have a contractor back on the job. If we can tack that on, maybe we can talk about how we can improve that area and how it looks.
Sure. So that mural actually predated me, so it's pre-2002. So what I can do is I can talk to our Arts for Transit, MTA Arts for Transit, because they have strict rules as far as what murals are painted on our system. If the artist, we can talk. We can talk. But I think one of the things is if the artist of the mural is still around, we can either ask them to touch it up if they'd like to, or we could certainly look to get other artists to do something. So we can certainly talk about possibilities there.
Yes, Chuck.
We, of course, in Coney Island and Brighton, and all along the entire route, we understand that the work will be done sooner or later on the Culver line, which is going to cause enormous changes. I think we all have to, any board that exists along the Culver, we really have to sit down and see how it's going to work, because people are going to be shifting around, going to be confused. And I think the sooner we sit down and work on a plan that will make it easier for the strap hangers to get to their subways, the better.
That there will be an upcoming station renewal project where the F line, the Culver line, between Ditmas Avenue and Avenue X will have either station renewals or station component work. So this affects a number of community boards. We had a preliminary meeting. The job actually has been delayed by a couple of months. We're going to start work this summer with it's combined with a structural painting job. So besides the stations, all the structure between Ditmas Avenue and Avenue X, which is a long span of elevated structure, will be painted as well. So we're trying to work out internally. We're trying to work out the schedule for the station component and renewal work and the station and the structural painting. Once I get more information, I'll certainly pass that off to all the affected community boards, and we'll come out and see everybody on an individual basis.
Anything else?
Is targeted to the police department. And I'm talking about Broadway, where we have an elevated J&M line. What I've noticed is that we have cars, and I'm going to try to explain it to the best of my ability. Obviously, the way the L is constructed makes angles at certain streets. So what I've noticed, because I traverse both Bedford-Stuyvesant and Bushwick, that where you have the smallest triangle, you have the greatest and the biggest SUV parking there. And in my opinion, these aren't legal parking spaces. This is just where you have stanchions that's actually holding up the elevated line. But, because I've been around a long time, I think the first car that I noticed that did it was maybe a Beetlebug car. And because no one complained about the Beetlebug car, now we have huge SUVs and trucks parking in what should not even be a parking space. And it really makes it dangerous if you're, coming out onto Broadway. So I've often wondered how come these cars have not been ticketed, and why is it just allowed to happen? I've noticed it mostly on Broadway at Quincy Street, which is right around the corner from the A1 precinct. And I guess if you go any further up or down, this is the case. And I just think that it's dangerous.
Well, I'm sure it is dangerous, but I'm not sure that these cars are not ticketed. So I will speak to
And if I see them, then
I will speak to the precinct commander, and I will, along Broadway, all of the commands that touch Broadway, and I'll ask them to address it.
You understand what I'm saying, right? It's those little tiny areas. Thank you.
I'm sure they're posted, I'm sure they're not legitimate parking, but we'll address it.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else? I have an issue that the Deputy Borough President is speaking about. I'm sure she may have addressed it with you before. As you all are aware, previously, Deputy Borough President Diana Reyna was council member in North Brooklyn, and this is an issue that came up several times, especially with the JMZ, the elevated subway line. It addresses two issues: an economic development issue, possibly, and an ease of access and egress. The closed-off exits and entrances underneath on Broadway, Hughes, Marcy. I'm sure there are other issues around Brooklyn. I just wanted to sort of bring that up and see if we could open those gates, possibly, at this point.
Literally, right?
Yeah.
I've addressed this issue with certain district managers already, because and also some bids, because this has come up recently. And we've gotten lots of requests to open up long time closed entrances at subway stations. And up till about 2 years ago, we went out on an individual basis, took a look, and I know that we were able to open up some. I know Nadine, we were able to open up a couple in Community Board 4. The issue is that last summer there was a ruling by the FTA in Philadelphia that said that any station entrance that is going to be opened has to be ADA accessible. So the issue is, whenever we open a long-standing, or we try to reopen a long-standing station entrance that has been closed for a number of years, we are now looking into whether we have to make it ADA accessible. So I mean, I think our legal department is looking into it. So it's not just a matter of looking to see if it's something that can be opened. We need to see whether we need to put a ramp in or an elevator. We wouldn't have to make the entire station ADA accessible, but we'd have to make that entrance and egress ADA accessible. So that's something we're looking at legally to see if that's something that would pertain to us. And if it is, then obviously it would be a capital issue, because obviously we'd have to invest a lot more money in it than just opening up the stair. So that being said, there's also before this ruling came down, we also were, one of the big things that we had to look at when we opened up a station entrance or egress that has been closed is whether, since its closure, whether there have been station rooms that were built or other infrastructure that would preclude it from being open. So we understand that they were closed back when certain conditions made it dangerous to have the station open. But I know a lot of these areas have changed over the years, and as I said, up to like 2 or 3 years ago, if it's something that we were able to do, we certainly would do that as a benefit to the community and our customers. But since last summer, there's been a lot of overtures that we had to react to hesitantly because of this ruling, and we're right now in the process of looking to see, how that would affect us. So that's in a nutshell.
Do you know how long it's going to take to find that out?
I don't.
On that ruling, Andy, over here, Henry Butler, Community Board 3. Did the ruling state for any new station entrance, it has to be ADA accessible?
I think what they were talking about was just an existing entrance to an old station. I think that was what the ruling was. I think there are separate.
Because I could be wrong. I thought it said any new station that would be open would have to be ADA accessible. So and if that's the case, then my question would be then these are old stations that already exist. So then would they fall under that ruling?
That's what the ruling said. Basically, that if we wouldn't have to make the entire station ADA accessible. It would just have to be that entrance or egress that we reopened via a ramp or an elevator or whatever would be structurally best at that station.
You're 100% sure that's what it says? Even if it's an old station, if it's reopened, it has to be ADA accessible?
That's what the FTA ruling in Philadelphia said, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Andy. Are there any other questions before we move on? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before we move on to our DOT section, I'd like to welcome representatives from Councilmember Darlene Mealy's office, Robert Wiggins, Representative Rachel Webster from Jumani Williams' office, and her name is Rachel Webster, and then Denise Shaw Gross, representative from Councilmember Robert Cornegie's office. Yes, I'm going to hand the mic over to Lauren.
All right, so we're going to return back to agenda item 2. Okay, sorry, give me 1 second. And so I spoke with Rhonda from Department of Transportation, and basically what we're going to do right now is we're going to have a little bit of an open forum about what the concerns related to the Department of Transportation are, and hash that out, and then they're going to come and do a similar presentation so that they can provide all of the information that's requested of the district managers at the March meeting. So we're going to effectively revisit numbers 1 and 2 related to notification issues at the March meeting, so that you get all your answers, and then we can continue to move on through the district manager document effectively at the subsequent meetings. So I'm going to give all district managers opportunities to, if they have anything to say that they want to, just so that Rhonda can bring it back to the agency, they can.
Hi, good evening. Good morning. It's Josephine Beckman, District Manager, Community Board 10, Bay Ridge. Rhonda, I just want to add, in addition to our notes, we did kind of highlight DDC-related capital projects. We recently received notice the day after a DDC job began on 68th Street and Shore Road. We were told after a few days of trying to reach the engineer that the job was a Department of Transportation pedestrian safety measure contract that was part of a 5-borough contract item. We didn't have any notice about this particular project. We've had some issues at that intersection as it relates to pedestrian safety, so we're certainly happy about it. But we did request some further information specifically about the job and updates as to our request for a traffic control device at that intersection, since these measures are being installed. The job number I have here, I'll give to you later on, but it just highlights the importance of notification to the community board. It's an issue that we've been working on, and the work notices went up before we received a notification. Thank you.
The community board, Sean Campbell, community board 14. The community board also does not get notification from DOT when a project's been completed. So we have 111 open DOT issues in CB14. Some of them might have actually been addressed. We find out after the fact that speed humps have been installed, and driving around I often notice a traffic light that we were waiting for has in fact become operational. But we can't close out our complaints without notification, and I have spoken with our liaison, Claudette Workman, about improving that, and I hope that those improvements will occur expeditiously, because we don't know. That would be good news to deliver, and we're not even getting the good news.
And you're right, there is no follow-up to say that it's been completed. As the liaisons to the community, we don't get that notification. So, I mean, this is a bigger discussion to have. I mean, if I stay on top of the operational group that I'm waiting for something that's like a hot issue, they'll tell me, okay, it was completed today. But that's rare, and you're right. So I'm not sure, like this is a whole procedural change that might have to occur in order for that to be possible.
Because the installations also, we do get notification that they've been approved in the time frame within which they're supposed to be implemented, but that time frame, they're often tardy. So they don't get put in the time frame we were told they would be. But eventually they do, and then we don't know that they've been completed. So you are bringing these back to principals and decision makers in terms of policy within DOT?
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Pearl Maz. I'm the district manager for Community Board 9. And my issue with DOT is there are a number of street openings constantly going on in our district and probably throughout Brooklyn where we receive no notification. I mean, Cablevision is the best at notifying, but other people, street openings all over the place, there used to be a requirement for folks that want to do that to notify us, whether it's someone fixing their water main to their house or whatever it is, and we don't get that notification at all. Except from Cablevision, they're really very good. And a lesser extent, National Grid. Lesser extent, but the National Grid is not that good either. They're good at, the restoration is good. I like the way they restore the stuff, but notification is really crucial, because a lot of times someone calls and like, why are they digging up in front of my house? I didn't, and I don't know, and I'm so totally embarrassed. I say, I don't know. I have to find out and get back to you, and really that's not acceptable. Thank you.
They told us a couple of years ago that we can go online, and that's where I'm going, online to find out which permits have been pulled. That don't work.
No.
At all. So, and then we're looking like we're not doing our jobs by not giving out the information, and we're trying to use the tools that you told us, not you, Rhonda, but they told us to use, and that doesn't work either. Well, that doesn't work for us, so we need you to help us make it work.
I think as far as so far, all of the people that have had questions were about the community boards I don't cover. But I've certainly given that advice when a district manager calls me up and asks about an opening or something. Are they authorized to do it? So you can look up in the permit system to see.
Don't work. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I've looked it up. I don't know if they've changed it since the last time I looked it up.
We've had situations where, because I can't find anything, I need to call my DOT person, and then I don't know what she does, but she'll give me some information. But the point that I'm making is there are too many steps in it. If in fact we're the district managers and people are calling us about certain street cuts and what have you, we're supposed to be able to have that information at our hands. Right, and that's what automation should be about.
If
that's
you
what I
can't
need to say.
find it in the system, it's probably not legitimate.
I agree.
That's the problem.
Well, I'm talking about legitimate ones. We'll talk about the illegitimate ones later.
Craig Hammerman, Community Board 6. So it's actually Charter Section 86, not 68, so the numbers were inverted on the agenda. And anyone that reads it would see that the intent of that provision of the charter was the community boards are supposed to be notified whenever there's a dig, whenever there's a pavement disruption, whenever there's a street closure. And even in the case of an emergency, that charter provision says that we're supposed to be notified as soon after or as quickly as the agency can. And now DOT has the permitting system, which we use fairly regularly to look up and see who's responsible for the cuts. But the point is, we shouldn't have to look these things up. The charter says that we're supposed to be notified. The intent is for us to be proactive, for the agency to let us know. And I have to also say, you know, Pearl is covered by Cablevision. We're covered by Time Warner Cable. And Time Warner Cable does an excellent job of notifying us. They provide us with a map of, you know, where they intend to dig. They provide us with a projected start date, and they always say on or around, and they project, you know, the total time that they expect to take in the street. So we have a very clear picture, and it's very proactive, and they even share that information electronically. So we can post it, we can, you know, shoot it out into the internet and share it with neighbors. But they are the only ones that go to that extent. National Grid will let us know that they intend to dig at a certain location, but they never tell us when they plan on being out there and how long they plan on being out there. And really, it stops there. No one else notifies us when they intend to disrupt pavement. So if you do a careful reading of Section 86 of the Charter, you know, we're supposed to be notified. We shouldn't have to go look things up. It's good to have that tool as a resource, but if we don't know what's coming down the line, that affects planning. That means that we can't factor these things into consideration when we're signing off on block parties and we're signing off on street fairs and when we're planning other events. And that's really the whole reason why we're supposed to be notified in the first place, because we are the place where the rubber meets the road, literally, and, you know, every agency has to work through to coordinate whatever's going on in our streets. So I think what we were hoping to emerge from this discussion with is some kind of a plan where we can automate the notification system. So community boards get those kinds of notifications. They're consistent, they're accurate, and we don't have to go look things up in the permitting system.
Thank you, Craig.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Greg. Are there any representatives from any of the utility companies? I know we asked a few to be there. Yes.
And I didn't get the notification, but as soon as you let me know, I'm taking care of it.
Do you all have contact information so that you're able
Everyone
to?
has my home, not my home, but my cell phone number, and they have my work number, and most people do know how to reach me by cell, and I normally return the phone calls.
Pearl, do you have something?
No, we're
Good morning. This is Diana Reina, your deputy speaking. I wanted to just stop by in the midst of having just arrived from a meeting with the mayor on behalf of our borough president to be able to welcome you back into Borough Hall in the month of February. This is our second Borough Service Cabinet meeting, and we are moving full steam ahead. There was a memo, as everyone has been made aware, of an agenda that we want to complete. There will be a timeline associated to that agenda. I know that Commissioner Jeffrey is not here, but sent Jamie from the Parks Department to be able to refer to that agenda. I do not believe that, okay, Parks was not on the agenda for today, so we have not arrived at that particular meeting notation. But the particular question that was asked as far as National Grid is concerned, I walked in the midst of that particular question and answer. Am I correct in reiterating that the commitment is that National Grid will make a presentation to go over what would be the project's schedule?
About 2 years ago, so I'm sorry, back to you. So we'll look to do that again, you know, as far as the projects that we have, because we do have a lot of projects taking place in the street, because it is a lot of development going on. So we would bring our team back to do that.
And I appreciate that. And I don't believe the question is necessarily an information of projects scheduled, but more so the interagency and staff coordination to be able to understand that if the DOT came in to pave a street and there's a scheduled project a week later ruining that street, that we are able to say, hold on, let's delay paving the street for another month. National Grid, you have to speed up your schedule on this particular street by 2 weeks so that in 6 weeks we're not undoing what has been already spent as far as taxpayer dollars are concerned.
Absolutely, and we work with the agencies to do that. So a lot of times our work is done first if we know that sewers and things are coming in behind, so there will be only one pavement. So I do know our team works very closely with those agencies to get involved with those types of things.
Managers, is that coordination, as much as it is happening, that there's cracks in between, and we want to make sure that we reduce that particular void in communication. And so if they're kept abreast and are looped into those conversations, that you're able to achieve that outcome in even a greater manner. So we appreciate your participation, and we should be able to speak before the next Borough Service Cabinet meeting to let us know how soon you can make that presentation along with the agencies, so that we are coordinating the agencies and their schedules of the different public works that are taking place as far as infrastructure is concerned. Thank you.
Can we ask the other utilities to join them in doing that as well?
Yes, and just to be clear, we reached out to Time Warner and Verizon and Cablevision as well. Because of scheduling issues, they're not mandated by the charter, as we all know, but they do intend to be present. So this will be a continued conversation. Did Con Ed want to add anything to? Okay, so perhaps at the next, when it's appropriate, you'll have a presentation as well. Okay. Are there any other comments from any of the members of the Borough Service Cabinet? Yes,
just one thing, Jeremy. Have you changed the vendor, or are you producing the paint that you use for street markings? Has that changed recently? Because it seems that recent street markings are wearing out within days or weeks. Just very quickly and ridiculously. I mean, the one that I see is actually in Josephine's district. I'm sorry?
There's no reflective properties
I'm thinking of the exit from the
Order,
belt there, which was
ladies and
painted
gentlemen,
twice.
can we just have one person speaking at a time and use the microphone so we could all hear?
So let me just ask, has the vendor changed, or are you producing your own paint, or has something changed with that?
Well, truthfully, that's not even something that I'd be made aware of, whether we're using a different vendor or not. I mean, not to my knowledge, but, you know, that's not ever been anything I needed to know, you know, what company is doing the painting. But the fact of the matter, if there's a problem with the product, then certainly we do need to know that. Now, obviously, you're not talking about just in this recent harsh weather, right? Because that does destroy the market.
No, well before that.
So, you know, I will absolutely bring that back. This is the first time
Fourth Avenue was repainted last summer. You know, we changed the number of lanes there. It was repainted. First of all, the black paint over the old lines is worn away, so you can see the old lines, which still exist. And then the new painting is just wearing away extremely quickly, particularly the yellow paint.
And is this a problem, the paint, as far as the crosswalks and the double yellow lines on the streets, on the asphalt, has been rapidly fading away, more so than in the past, is what you're saying, Jared?
Bike lanes, everything.
Yes.
All the market.
It also lacks the reflective properties that it used to have. So at least from a layperson's perspective, it looks like what happened is DOT switched from using thermoplastic to using paint. And paint does not have the same properties as thermoplastic.
The only time we use paint as opposed to thermoplastic is when it's just temporary.
I'm just suggesting from a layperson's perspective, that's what it looks like has happened. But there's definitely been a change in the quality of the materials that's being used on the roadways.
I'm just surprised that this has been going on for months, that it hasn't come to my attention. I mean, I have active communications with all 8 of my community boards.
So we will speak to Department of Transportation as follow-up to understand whether or not vendors have been changed or the material has been changed, just to understand, is this a problem that from this point on we're flagging at the Borough Service Cabinet meeting, and that appropriate feedback, God bless you, is going to be communicated back to the Borough Service Cabinet meeting, and we'll work with you, Rhonda, to be able to answer whether or not it's a switch in vendor or the material being used.
Well, the vendor would be responsible for the material they're using, but of course they're supposed to meet our specifications, which wouldn't change whether the vendor changed or not.
Correct.
But,
and just a little bit of investigation goes a long way. Thank you. Any further questions? Yes.
Is it my turn?
It's your turn.
Oh, I've been blocking it,
You were just waiting for me to come in.
Frustration. Do it for 1.5 years. We have been waiting for our new phone line. Money has been transferred from our budget, directly out of our budget. No, but I've got to say this. Craig, I've got to say it. Because we are half non-functioning. Our main line is 266-3001, which does not work at all, so people are unable to reach us from the agencies and from my fellow managers. I'm bringing this up here because it's a frustration beyond belief. This has been going on for 1.5 years. And people think we are not in our office. We are goofing off. We're out golfing, swimming, whatever. And it's critical that we get this straightened out. We'll do it as soon as possible.
So
please.
Chuck, because you had raised this matter at our last Borough Service Cabinet meeting. DeWitt is present here today? Yes. Hi, don't be shy. Chuck is just frustrated, and I can understand why. He's not going to bite. And we want to make sure. Well, Jeremy will keep him back. So we just want to make sure that we have final timeline to be able to address this issue. This is post-Sandy. Communications is key to that community board, to any community board. And if they have no active lines of communication, phone lines, fax, email, everything is down. They're on shutdown mode. And the opportunity to have interim communication is not sufficient. And so what is perhaps the feedback that you're able to give us here today? And more importantly, post this meeting, if we could have a side conversation as to how we're going to provide a timeline with accurate troubleshooting that can have a complete overhaul as to how to resolve this problem. If you could just stand up and just mention your name. Just 1 second, Laura.
And Barack and I did have a conversation about this just prior to this meeting, and we're going to get nice to meet you in person. And I'll be looking into it, so we'll get back to you soon.
And what was
I've been hearing that, so please get back.
Yes.
So we will have, want to make sure that Chuck is included in our conversations so that we're able to deal with what would be tangible outcomes for their telecommunications infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we just want to open it up to any other representatives from agencies or companies, elected officials, offices. You're invited to share any sort of new news that you may have. Yes, Nyla's here
Good
from...
morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, good. I know I presented briefly at the last meeting about the Bike the Branches, but I have some more information for you guys about it today. For those of you that weren't present, on Saturday, May 17th, the Brooklyn Public Library is having its annual Bike the Branches event. Bike the Branches is a day-long bike ride through the borough in which participants can go to our selected branches and collect stamps, and there will be activities. Elected officials will be there doing read-alouds. We'll have programming for families, and we would love the community boards to also have teams at this event. I have some flyers here and also a sign-up sheet. So if you're interested in participating, please sign up at the table there with your name and your community board, and we'll get some more information to you. In addition to that, we also have our representatives that are going to be at your meetings, I think in the month of March, giving information about Bike the Branches. So if you're interested in participating, please reach out and let me know. And I guess on that note, separate from Bike the Branches, I also want to give some branch updates. I know for the community board that has New Lots branch in their district, the branch has been closed for a couple of days because of heat. Lack of heat, actually. So we're closed again today and probably tomorrow, but it's only temporary. In addition to that, we also have the Clinton Hill Library that's also undergoing renovations, and we have the bookmobile in the community. And if you're interested in having the bookmobile come to any site, also reach out and let me know. So thank you.
All right, so I understand that we're running into a little bit of our 11 o'clock, but it's my understanding, and I apologize for this, that Jamie from the Parks Department has come prepared to answer 2 agenda items on behalf of Commissioner Jeffrey. So Jamie, do you want to share with us today, or do you want to come back on in March? Deputy Borough President Reina suggests that you share today.
I'm prepared to answer questions about the 2 items that were on the district manager document. If anybody had any particular questions or anything that you wanted me to share about those 2 items.
Jamie, can you make the presentation? That would be helpful. I had a conversation with Commissioner Jeffrey, who expressed that you would come prepared to talk about the maintenance tree pruning program, the timeline, right? It's on a 7-year cycle. And there was concern regarding climate weather, the wear and tear on tree limbs, the occasional break of tree limbs, and the safety it presents for pedestrians and parked vehicles, just the general safety issue of making sure that our trees are pruned, maintained, and making sure that the public is safe.
So I'm sure I've spoken to all of you or representatives of your office over the past several years just about our tree pruning program. So everybody's aware of our tree pruning cycle. It's varied over the past many years, from 7 years to 10 years to 15 to 20 years. Now back down to what we like to say is 10 years, and hopefully getting better. That is all depending on funding that we receive every year that determines how many trees we can prune in each community board. This program is based on, we do prune a number of trees in each community board based on the population of trees within each community board every fiscal year. So clearly the more money that we have allocated, we can prune more trees per fiscal year.
And it's done 2 seasons?
It's done
in the fall and in the spring?
It's done all year round. We start.
So 12 months a year, tree pruning is happening. Yes. It's alternated every 7 years to each community board.
Yes.
And in cases of emergencies?
In case of emergencies, we do have what I'm sure everybody knows, service level agreements. For every type of complaint that there is through 311, Parks is expected to review that condition, inspect that condition, and take action within a certain amount of days. Those are usually given out to callers to 311. Those of utmost emergency, entire trees that have fallen, trees that are in danger of falling, large hanging branches over active areas are given top priority. Those are the things that we're out there within a day of receiving that call. We're out there inspecting that condition, triaging the conditions on the ground and then sending resources to
And if you could just stay right there, as far as the timeline from the moment that 311 calls is made and the complaint is logged, how long is the wait for a response to that emergency? Is it 5 to 7 days? Is it 3 to 5 days?
It depends on the nature of the call. But say, for instance, an entire tree has fallen blocking the street. I believe it's 5 days for us to get out there and inspect that. We generally do that within hours. So there's a little bit of lag time built in there. But for most emergency conditions, which would be, like I said, entire trees fallen, in danger of falling, hanging limbs, and entire limbs that have fallen, I believe it's 8 days for us to get out there and inspect it, and generally 45 days to correct the condition. But for most of those items, it's especially if it's very egregious, we're out there within the same day or a matter of days, depending on how large the limb is or whatever the case.
And do you have the number of 311 complaints separated from what is being called in from the community boards?
No, not necessarily.
And so how do we know what is coming in through 311 and what is coming in from the community boards?
I don't think we keep a record of what's coming in separately. Everything that comes into our forestry office now comes through a forestry management system that has two-way integration with 311. So we encourage all community boards to call everything into 311. It pops up on our desktop. We can see those calls right away. And then once we inspect and provide a resolution, that goes directly back to the caller, whether that's a citizen or the community board. But we have constant communication with the community board offices.
So after that complaint is logged in, there's a response to
311.
No, but there's a response back to the complainant?
Yes.
Within 24 hours?
Depending on
That's the specific question. If you could get back to us, how long does it take?
Once we provide that resolution to 311,
Right.
I don't know the answer to that. That would have to be.
If you can just get back to us with that answer, that would be very helpful. And there was a specific point that was clearly defined for clarification. We wanted to know the portions of districts scheduled to receive programmatic 10-year pruning. A map.
We have provided maps. Well,
I understand how it was done in the past. I'm trying to move this agenda forward with a very new, systematic way of doing business. If we can have a map provided, especially to Borough Hall, so that we have a base of what we're working on towards what would be the next 12 months, it would be very helpful to us. And then looking in the out years, in the next 4 years over each period, to be able to understand how we're progressing on tree pruning. Because I know as a former council member, that was probably one of the top 3 complaints.
We'll do our best to put something together that makes sense. It's kind of an evolving and revolving process because of funding issues, the size of the trees per community board, weather events that have affected that population of trees. So it's kind of a year-by-year thing. But we, as technologies improve, I think we could probably put something together that at least gives you an idea that this section was done this year. We plan to be over here next year. We may or may not be able to cover that based on funding, but this is kind of our plan. Our plan was several years ago when we had established that 7-year cycle was to have each community board split up into 7 sections. This is year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Of course, fiscal crisis and lack of funding has forced us to veer from that kind of intended course, but we can provide something that you guys can work with too.
And we would appreciate it. And I just wanted to highlight, post Sandy, a lot of the FEMA funding that the Parks Department will be able to tap into, perhaps through CDBG, would be able to allow you to digitize and use friendly technology uses towards GISing a lot of this. And so we hope that you're taking advantage of that.
We are, and even beyond that, our street tree census is coming up next year in 2015.
Fantastic.
The last one was in 2005, so a lot of the data that we have is 10 years old. So with new and improved technologies and geographic information systems, 2015 street tree census should be, we're hoping to get 95 to 99% accuracy on just all the conditions of the tree, size, condition, location on the sidewalk, size of the tree pit, all of this stuff that we can then use to generate this information that we can give to the public.
And that would
public
be
accessible, and also
sure.
Everything that we do is by community district. So.
Fantastic. And that would include the tree pruning cycle of when that tree was last pruned? I would hope so.
Ideally, yes.
If you can confirm that, that would be very helpful. I'd hate to do this twice over.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
And then the last item was a better system of notification for when pruning will occur in districts so that the community can plan for it. For instance, tree pruning is scheduled and cars have to be moved away from the block so that they're not parking where that block is or when that block is going to be tree pruned. Is that something, what is the notification process today? And we're going to figure out how do we improve that, because I know that in my council days, I would coordinate with the police department to make sure that we would have a streamlined approach. So no one would be ticketed, towed, but we would successfully tree prune.
The best that we can do is to put out signs and tell people not to park. We do have some success with PD to get those moved. But with this programmatic cycle, we do plan to do our pruning during alternate side parking days. So signs are generally posted by our contractors a day in advance, saying, don't park here. Even if it's from 9:30 to 11, we'll post signs from 8 to 2, just advising people not to park so tree pruning can occur. Sometimes in some community boards where there are no alternate side regulations, it's difficult. So it does require a lot of posting of signs, and we have varying degrees of luck with that. So, but we're not out there ticketing, towing cars just to get trees pruned. I'd be happy to look into that further with other agencies, but thus far we've had very little success in trying to get that.
And it's just, again, to improve the system, interagency with the district managers' offices who have great relationship with their local community affairs units to be able to work with the police department, if necessary, to make sure that there's proper signage the day before, 2 days before, so that vehicles are able to move out. There's no delay on anyone's part. And if that's something that we can work on for a systematic notification so that everyone's playing a role to successfully tree prune the block. Is there any questions? Yes, Mr. Butler.
He stated that Parks Department they can't ticket and but I guess the question is we don't expect Parks Department to do that. I'm confused, but I don't understand, how come it seems like it's so difficult for agencies to coordinate with one another. I mean, I know when usually if Con Ed or National Grid are doing some sort of work, or DOT, and they have their signs up, and I'm assuming, and this is for Brooklyn North, that do these agencies coordinate with the local precincts and say, okay, we need these streets to be cleared, and if they're not cleared, the signs go up saying, your car will be towed. So why is that so difficult for Parks Department to be able to do that? I guess to coordinate with the police department, the local precinct.
But in general routine pruning operations, it's it's happening so often in so many places that it's really hard to expect to get that service from them all the time. But like I said, that's why we try to plan our work in accordance with alternate side parking.
Oh, the alternate side parking is usually only like an hour and a half. Right. The work is not going to take. It's going to take longer than that. So I guess I'll ask Brooklyn North, is that an issue? No. If they call the precinct and say, we're going to be out there for 2-3 hours.
And okay. I know that the police department really prefers there to be tree pruning because it's a safety matter as well, because we don't want blockage of lighting, we don't want blockage of security cameras, we don't want blockage of what is the visual perspective of making sure that trees are not obstructing what would be the visual street view from people's homes if they are able to assist one another as neighbors to be able to secure their blocks. And so I know that we've had nothing but cooperation from our local precincts in the past, and it's a matter of asking and coordinating interagency. And we would appreciate that continues to happen for regular cycles of tree pruning because it's in everyone's best interest.
It's not people are generally have been waiting for this service for quite a while, so they're moving their cars. Just once in a while, somebody will park in such a way that we can't hit 3 or 4 trees on the block, and we have to come back, and then it becomes an issue. The phone calls start coming in. Why did you not prune my tree?
Sure.
So it
Sure.
becomes difficult to get back there and just do individual
Sure.
trees. So it's in general, it's not that huge of an issue
Right.
for us.
Mr. Risa?
Is there a plan in place as yet to replant where all the dead trees have now been removed? Certain blocks in CB 15, Shore Boulevard, Holocaust Memorial Park, the majority of trees have been removed. Is there any plan in place to get some new plantings in as a priority over another part of even the same district?
Yes. I don't have details on all. There's several, for Holocaust in particular, I know there's some designs and some funding that Commissioner Jeffrey has been working on, as well as the neighborhood of Manhattan Beach, the streets there that have lost probably 400 to 500 trees.
People
So,
love the word character in the neighborhood.
yeah,
Yesterday, driving down Shore, you really, anybody driving down there, it hits you like, what is different?
it's terrible. It's changed.
Every tree is gone, lots and lots.
Changed the entire nature of the neighborhood. So yes, we are. There are plans to replant those areas. Yes, absolutely.
As a priority or?
As a priority, but with keeping in mind that there's also the possibility that more trees will be removed too. So it's a kind of an ongoing thing. We've done an extensive survey back in the summer, through the fall and the winter, seeing which trees did not leaf out. We have a feeling that when springtime comes, we're going to see a lot more that maybe were 50% alive back then, or probably did not survive the winter. So it's an ongoing thing, unfortunately.
Okay, so it's 11:15, and we have 3 more hands going up. 4, actually. 5.
So I just need to make an announcement.
An announcement. Okay, so if we can take the last 15 minutes, because I know that we have people walking out of the room, and I don't want to have people walk out before we end officially this meeting, so that we have our order of business conducted in a professional and streamlined way, and there's no loose ends at the end of the meeting. So we will take these 5 last individuals, and we will wrap up by 11:30. We have Ms. Church.
Carol Ann Church, Community Board 2. Within our district, we're really blessed in a way to have large, mature street trees. But a lot of those trees are ripping up the sidewalks, and they don't give enough room for someone pushing a stroller to walk. They create a real trip hazard. And in a couple of instances, we've had homeowners who claim that the tree roots is damaging the foundation of their homes. Is there a plan for dealing with those situations?
With which one? The second one, where damaging
where the
foundations?
large
or?
trees, yes, they've damaged the sidewalk. It's a real trip hazard. Doesn't leave enough room for anyone to walk past. And then you have the homeowners next to those trees complaining that the roots are damaging their homes.
Well, Parks does have its trees and sidewalks program. Everybody knows. Everybody in this forum knows about that. Limited funding, small program where we do help tax class 1 homeowners make repairs to sidewalks damaged by tree roots. Is it perfect? Does it cover everything that we would like to cover? No, of course not. But it does help with those situations. It becomes tough in landmarked areas, bluestone sidewalks. Things become a little bit trickier. And in situations where roots are damaging foundations to homes, it enters a very gray area with, whose property are those roots on? Are they within the city right-of-way? Are they on the homeowner's property? But I would say the best answer for that right now is that we treat each one on a case-by-case basis. There's one in your community board that we've been dealing with for quite a while that I think we've reached a conclusion on. So it just all depends on the tree, it depends on the situation, as far as those damaging somebody's home.
We actually have more than one, but that was...
Well, there's one that was recently in the press, and that I think you and I had discussed a while back. So that one I think has reached a conclusion or a resolution.
Is there any chance there's going to be a stump removal contract for stumps larger than with the diameter larger than 30 inches this year?
Yes, there is. It should be starting up sometime this winter. I can get back to you on the start date, but there is funding in place. I believe it's a couple $1 million. So for the first time in 4 or 5 years, we will have that contract. As Jeremy pointed out, for everybody who doesn't know, our tree planting contracts cover within the whole planting process removal of the stump 30 inches in diameter and below. Anything above that requires parks resources to do that, which we have very limited resources, more so now than we did a year ago. So we're hoping between this contract and our increased resources and equipment that we may be able to help out, especially with those really glaring problem stumps, and just be able to try to get back on a regular schedule, a seasonal schedule, where in the wintertime we're out there removing stumps larger than 30 inches.
I'm going to save my thanks for when I stop getting those calls from my mom.
Thank you. Craig Hammerman, District Manager, Community Board 6. So I would first of all like to take you up on your offer for maps. We'd love to see one for our district, what you intend to cover, and if you have anything that projects out to the future, even better. But I heard you mention that next year you're planning on doing another tree census, and we had a lot of active people in our district that took part in the 2005 census. So I was just wondering if you were planning on some kind of a public engagement component for the tree census in 2015, if you'll be recruiting volunteers, if you'll be training people, if you'll be equipping folks with handhelds and things like that, and how we could get involved in those discussions early so we can help promote this within our communities.
Yes to all of that. I don't have all the details now. It's just kind of we're still in the process of planning all of that stuff, but there will definitely be a huge community component to this. I know we've already several groups.
Before we did all this computer stuff, we would submit all the locations that people want trees planted, and then we would get a response. One response would be all the do not plant, and reasons why: too close to a driveway, not too close to another tree, utility, whatever. And the other one would be all the planting, and it would cover the addresses that were submitted. Now it's no notification, but if you ask, you get some, but no reason why the other ones are not on there. And so I think with computers now, whether it's from us directly or from 311, there should be some way to have all the locations that were requested, the reasons why they will not be planted, or if they're going to be planted, and so it's better coordinated and notified. So that's my problem: notification about tree planting in my district.
That notification does exist, and it is through 311. As I was speaking about before, we do provide a resolution for every service request, including tree planting. So for instance, you request a tree planted in front of your home, a forester goes out to inspect it and determines that it cannot be planted due to a driveway and a light post. So that information is sent back to 311, and the caller should receive an update on that saying, are you asking something separate like this?
This is community board, and we're supposed to have that notification. I'm not asking about the neighbor down the block or anything like that. Locations that are submitted, whether we submitted or somebody called it in to 311, the notification is not there. And you're saying go to 311, and that's not, that's the same thing with DOT, and the whole thing what we're talking about being notified. It's part of the requirement.
I would say if you do have a list of locations that you need to know about, the best thing to do would be to call the forestry office and try to get that. But at present, we don't have any kind of large-scale thing that we can send out and say that here's all of the requests per community board and here's the status. Aside from just letting us know what those locations are, we can look at that.
That would be useful, though, if you guys develop that.
It would be. We're constantly in the process of developing new software, new technologies that can make those kind of things easier. I sympathize with your concern. I can see that's an issue. We spent a lot of time trying to ensure that we provide resolution to an individual caller, and sometimes on a broader scale it may not be as developed.
Thank you. Please.
Hi, good morning. I'm Jahari Jenkins. I just had an announcement. The Con Edison Green Team will be here in this room, this community room, doing a presentation, seminar, breakfast for your small business and multifamily owners in your district. Each of the community board district managers will receive a flyer and an email regarding it, but it's next week, Thursday, February 20th, here in this room at 8:30, and it's about energy efficiency, retrofitting, and incentive programs for the Con Edison Green Team. So I just wanted to let everybody know that that's coming. Thank you.
Is that 8:30 a.m. or p.m.?
A.m. breakfast.
Thank you all. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And I want to first thank anyone here who was able to be, excuse me, I apologize. Everyone here who was able to be present for the Shirley Chisholm stamp unveiling. It was a magnificent event that took place here at Brooklyn Borough Hall. And I know that when I came the last time, I said that the event was going to be February 6th. Well, because I wasn't involved in the planning of that event at all. The entire thing came from headquarters in Washington. And I really didn't know until I sent out the notifications to those that I had their information for. And again, I apologize to anyone that I did not. But the event ended up being a week earlier on January 31st here at Brooklyn Borough Hall. But don't dismay if you weren't able to be there, because the Postmaster of Brooklyn and the Manager of Marketing are working to put together what are called second day events. And so that stamp is going to be unveiled again in our local area. There are several venues that are anxious to have that stamp unveiled, and Shirley Chisholm honored again and again. They had wanted something in Black History Month, which of course came immediately, and here we are. But I'm going to be working with the Postmaster and the Manager of Marketing to produce a second day unveiling at a couple of different locations here in Brooklyn for Women's History Month. So I hope to be able to bring you some information. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. James.
You're welcome.
Now we can move on to the next order, which is just to let everyone know our next Borough Service Cabinet meeting is Tuesday, March 11th. And look forward to being there as well. This was a wonderful way to start my year with the Borough Service Cabinet. You guys had a robust dialogue, and I thank you for that, and making Brooklyn a better place. I just also wanted to second Ms. James's comments. The Shirley Chisholm event was awesome, so thank you. Without further ado, one more thing. If you haven't signed in, please do so we make sure and note that you were present. And again, we can close this meeting. So thank you. See you March 11th.